Thanks for tuning in, you guys. Here we are back again with Bill Henderson. This is the second half of my interview. If you go to the episode right before this, you'll hear the first half of the interview with Bill. And here we are. I'm going to get you started right now, and I can't wait for you guys to hear the rest of it. Here we go. I'm going to talk a little bit about songwriting. I mean, you've served as past president of SOCAN and Songwriters of Association of Canada. So I can't really imagine a better person to ask about songwriting. You can talk about the art of it, or the mechanics of, what does an up and coming artist need to understand about the life of a song, from writing or co-writing right through to registering and licensing and onward, and where do the people make all of the mistakes?
Good question. That's a good question. Where do the people make all of the mistakes? The first and most frequent mistake is not having a great song.
Well, okay, fair enough.
That'll be number one. So you have to, and you're not going to know. So you're just going to plow forward. That's what you're going to do. And, I'm not going to talk to you about social media because I know nothing about it. I'm not going to talk to you about how to market your songs in this century because I know nothing about it. And all I can say is that there are certain things that I think have not changed. And of course, the first one is the song itself. And even though styles change, there is something about certain songs that makes them, you say, oh, well, that's because they played it all the time. Yeah, but they played it all the time because it worked, because people wanted to hear it, Yes, they played it all the time. And then, become a SOCAN member. It costs you nothing. It's free. And SOCAN has millions, literally millions and millions of songs that it tracks. Yeah. And that not only does it track in Canada, but similar organizations in virtually every country of the world are tracking your songs too, if they happen to be playing there. And they send that information back to SOCAN. And SOCAN is really important for another reason, and that is that the board of directors of SOCAN, who basically set the terms of how it works, are 50% writers. And I don't know, the record companies generally don't have writers on board unless there's a writer like, a huge, and they can get them on the board. So, but most music industries do not include creative people on their board of directors. Creative people on the board of SOCAN keep SOCAN focused the right way. Yeah. And it's nine writers and 9 publishers. And if an extra publisher comes on, then an extra writer has to come on. If an extra writer comes on, then an extra publisher has to come on. So you got this balance between industry and creative. Yep. And so SOCAN is a treasure in that way. Most it's called an authors' rights organization, and most authors' rights organizations around the world have writers on their boards. The BMI is one of the few that does not. It was started by the radio industry, and they assiduously avoided having creative people on their board, writers and other flakes. Anyways.
Okay, it's fair. Creatives don't always make the best board members.
Well, you learn though, I was, when I went on there, I was on the SOCAN board. It was 1989, and I lasted for 23 years. And I was a thorn in their side for quite a while. Yeah. I didn't know how it worked. And I was extremely suspicious. And I just demanded answers for everything. And I just wouldn't shut up until I got the answer. Right. Yeah. And so, but I was, I'm a relatively kind person and a relatively polite person. So I wasn't stupid about it, but I just would not give up. If something didn't sound right to me, they had to explain it in a way that it would sound right to me. right?
You're the
And
guy that artists want fighting on their side.
yeah, this guy, yes, and there's lots of us there are a lot of artists that have that kind of, you're trained for that. Like you go into a studio, you can't stop at, the first thing that comes up. You got to get the right thing, and it takes a bit of discipline to do that. And so we do that. And so you can go on a board and you don't have to know everything. You'll learn it. They taught me. It took years, and they saw that I was not someone filled with hate. Mm-hmm. So maybe there was some possible future on having this guy on the board, and certainly if we could make him happy, that life would be a lot easier. And so they took care of me, and the guy who was the head of the organization, Michael Rock, was a total sweetheart. He put up with me, and he kicked me under the table when I said the wrong thing, because I ended up going to being the president and going to lobby in Ottawa, for writers, and they taught me all of that. So they will, and they will do that, and so it's good. It's a really good thing. You know what? The authors' rights organizations were started by an author. He was a Frenchman named Beaumarchais, and Louis somebody Caron de Beaumarchais. I can't remember all of his names. Yes, quite a few. He wrote The Marriage of Figaro and The Barber of Seville. Mm-hmm. Mozart turned them into operas. He wrote them as plays. Mozart turned them into operas only a few decades afterwards, not long. Mm-hmm. And when Beaumarchais wrote these things, and he knew he had something, he went to the Paris, the biggest production company in Paris that put on plays, right? And because he wanted them to do it, so he took it there, and they said, "Okay, all right, yeah, we'll do this. Here's the contract." And they handed him the contract, and he read it, unlike many creatives. He read it, and I used to do that very same thing. He read it, and he went, "Okay, so there's a clause here that says that if this play draws less than whatever it was, 40% maybe, house 2 nights in a row, that you get to own the play." And they said, "Oh yeah, that's the way it is. Everyone signs it. That's the deal." He said, "Ain't the deal for me." And, he said it in French, of course. Anyways, he gathered other like-minded writers, and they weren't all like-minded. A lot of them were just, well, this is the world and this is what you got to live with, right? But there were others that were ready to say, no, that's bullshit. We're not doing that, right? We're not doing that. It's not yours. And it will never be yours. It's mine. So they created this organization called what is it? RACD. I've forgotten exactly what it is. The letters, which exist to this day. Mm-hmm. And he got authors' rights signed into legislation by Napoleon. Wow. And this man could talk to Napoleon, because I'm just going to do a little sidetrack here. It won't take too long, but it's really interesting. Beaumarchais was an interesting character. He was the financial advisor to Louis XVI. Yeah, I think it's 16. He was the last Louis, I think, because he's the one who lost his head. And he was also a military advisor to Louis XVI. Oh. And when the Americans had their revolution in the 1700s, whatever it was, Louis. No, I don't know if it was Louis. Yeah, Louis. Yes, it was him. He wanted to supply the Americans with armaments, because it was the English they were fighting with. And after all, if someone would beat the English for the French, they would really appreciate it, right? So Americans had blockaded the harbor. I think it was Boston Harbor. And Louis asked Beaumarchais if he could find a way to get around the blockade so that they could get armaments, and he did, and they did. And the Americans later came, a couple of decades later, I think, came to Paris and thanked the French and Beaumarchais for doing that, right? So here you've got this man who writes Marriage of Figaro and Barber of Seville, two of the biggest plays ever. They still play, and the operas still play. Who started the first authors' rights organization. Now they're in every country, and SOCAN is one of the ones that came out of all of that. Yeah. And And he helped with the American Revolution. It's like, yeah, and he got Napoleon to sign authors' rights into, hello, this guy was a ball buster.
Right?
He was a freaking ball buster. And we can be that.
Yeah.
We need to be that. We need to know what's right, and then we need to put our shoes on and get out there and do it, right?
Yep.
Make things right. So, screenwriters, don't let them take your rights. Don't let them say that don't let the producer of the movie say that he's the writer of the music. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Because you know what you're doing? You're undercutting everything that Beaumarchais and all the people after him set up.
Yeah.
So stick by your rights. Yes, you'll lose work. Big deal. We've all lost work.
Yeah, you gotta pick your battles, right?
You got to pick your battles,
and some of them are important.
Yeah. Don't erode things that are actually working for you now. That are actually helping your life and your career. Anyway, that's my thought on that. I had another story I wanted to tell you, but I can't remember what it is anymore. Okay.
Well, if it comes to you, by all means.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit ago about the concept of songwriters and, well, I think, quite frankly, all performing artists in every genre. Not even just performing artists, all artists, I think, are storytellers. Their mediums are different. I think as musicians and singers and songwriters, we are in a unique position around storytelling. And so I'm interested in how you approach the concept of storytelling in your writing or your performing, like we talked a little bit about it before, but about that connection to the audience.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I have many times had stories I wanted to tell, and I never could do it. And then songs came out, and I didn't know what they meant.
Mm-hmm.
And now I see that they were stories, and I see what people might have. Baby Blue came out in one sitting. It was one of those songs, and I see that there are women out there in the audience, who it means a lot to. And if you look at the lyrics of those songs, you know what they might be thinking, what they've experienced, that song, what they've experienced. And so I respect that. And I respect whatever muse it was that told me to say that, because I don't know who it was, but I have gradually learned also to tell stories in a knowing way. Yeah. And that All Right, that song All Right, is one of those where I knew what I wanted to say. And then I realized that it wasn't gonna go over that well the way I had originally framed it. I still can use most of the same words, so their sound and everything is still intact, but I can just shift it a little bit. And I learned that from people like Jimmy Einer, who had the record company we had in the States when we were doing Gone Gone and stuff like that. He understood that sort of symbolism in the songs and how they strike people. He wouldn't let me write a song with a woman's name in it, which is hilarious. I thought he was going a bit far on that. But anyway, he said, what you've done is you've excluded everyone who's not called Jennifer or whatever the name was. No other woman is going to take that as her song. How could she? It's not her name. And that was the kind of thinking that he had. And again, I don't agree with that one particularly, but I understand the basic intent of what he was saying, that it's important for the song to be theirs. It's important for it to be theirs. So, and you said earlier how, you need to say it in a way that people can, well, They can feel good, but I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was something like that. And the result of it was that a person could feel good about your song, and generally that means that they can relate to it, that it feels like it's theirs, that kind of stuff.
It
You know,
feels
so
inclusive rather than,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and that's not about the point of the story. That's about how you tell it,
Yeah.
right? So you got to say it in a way that people are interested and they're like, oh, and feel comfortable. They go, oh, this is nice. Then
Yeah.
you put your story in, but you don't put it in. And now I'm going to tell you what I really mean.
Yeah.
And say this really bad thing. You know, you don't do that. You don't do that.
Yeah.
You use metaphor. You use various ways of saying what you're saying without saying it too brutally, honestly. You don't want to be brutal. It's not what people want.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's how you tell it. And yeah, I'm really bad with that kind of thing, because I really take things literally at face value. When people say them to me, I just take them at face value. I don't think, what do they really mean by that? I don't do that. And a lot of people are doing that all the time, and a lot of people are talking that way all the time. They're expecting you to go beneath the surface and understand what they said. My neighbor came over. We were burning, had our burn pile going, and he's a great guy. I really like him. He came over and he says, "Your smoke is my smoke." And I thought, wow, what an incredible turn of phrase. That's interesting. And I, don't know what he means by it, but wow. Yeah, man, how are you? It's like, and then, like hours later, I went, oh, it would be nice if he wasn't getting so much smoke over there.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing. That's what he said. That's storytelling, right?
Yeah.
That's storytelling.
Yeah.
Like you don't make a person feel like, well, fuck you. You don't create that energy, right?
Yeah. Community and support versus competition in show business. We work in an industry that can be very cutthroat because it is a very competitive industry. What has your experience been, and how do you think we can foster a more supportive community?
Wow. That's so great. Yeah, I think we are doing or have done that. I always felt like in my career, it was very, very competitive, and it was, it made you greedy and made you not trust and all of that stuff, and it was not good. I really wish I had known better. And I was amazed to meet the next generation. When I started doing solo work, it was the venues for solo work were folk clubs and folk festivals. So I'd go out and do those, and I mostly didn't play the really hard-ass Chilliwack stuff. I'd play Lonesome Mary, and I'd play Reno, and I'd play Fly at Night and stuff like that, little gentler kind of stuff. So anyway, while I was out there doing that, I met all these people like, Barney Bentall, Jeff Kelly with Spirit of the West, the guys in the band, and many other artists that seemed to not be bothered with that stuff. They were so warm. They were really nice. They were nice to each other. They were really nice to me. I hadn't really experienced that, right? In the industry. So something happened. I don't know quite how it happened. I don't know how it happened. But they had this, and I really appreciated it, and I still do. And I still work with those people on various things, and various times we get to perform together, and it's so much fun. It's great. I don't know. It's I maybe, I'm not sure. I really don't know how that happened. Was it because by then the way Canada supported its artists, like hate to say it, but taxpayers' money,
Yeah.
that they supported it's Canada supported this artist because they were operating in a very competitive environment, and it was an international environment, and it was largely an American environment, and
Mhm.
you couldn't get the time of day in the States a lot of times,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
had to play their ball busting game to do it, and maybe because uh, of all that support, people started to be able to relax more. I'm not sure. I don't know. I wish I knew, but it was a cool thing, and I found I found the industry pretty corrosive. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll just finish up with a couple of quick, they can be quick questions.
Yeah.
Um, what is the most unexpected way you've used your talents in the course of your career?
The question may be quick, but the pause might be long. One more time on that question.
What is the most unexpected way that you've used your talents in the course of your career?
Oh, okay. Here's one that might be unexpected.
All right.
When we were the jam band,
Mhm.
and this would have been in 70, 71, something like that. We had a gig in Calgary with Eric Burden and War.
Mhm.
So we were opening for them. And I guess Eric's roadies didn't like, maybe we must have gone overtime or something because they pulled their plugs. And so the
Subtle.
guitar, really subtle. Yeah. Would you mind? So they pulled our plugs, but that just lost us guitar and bass. The PA system, the plugs were way out there. Right. And they might have had a little trouble doing it because it wasn't being run by their guys. It was being run by the PA company, who might not have appreciated that. And they figured we were defenseless. So, they could pull our plugs. So brilliantly, Ross continued to play. We're in the middle of a jam and we're just smoking, right? And he's going like this, and all of a sudden the bass and guitar go. He just keeps playing. He keeps playing. He's sort of soloing a little bit, like, "Oh, this is my solo," right? And he keeps going. And I said to Cliff Jones, I don't know if you remember Cliff, but he was our roadie at that time, or a road manager. And I said, he was at the side of the stage. I said, "Cliff, get those metal garbage cans from the dressing room and bring them up and give Claire one and me one." So he did. And we laid them down on their sides, and we got the mics, which are still working, the vocal mics, and we got them down by the garbage cans, and we had drumsticks. We started to play with Ross, right? Bang, 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 bang. And we're all going like this. And then we lean into the mics. One of us leaned into the mics and started, "They pulled our plugs. They pulled our plugs." So we told the whole story. So they found out what was going on. The audience knew what was going on. They went freaking ape.
Yep.
So our talents to respond, I guess it was, to weird circumstances were tested there, and we did a good job.
And it sounds like maybe you need writing credit for the original show Stomp,
Oh,
right? Where they
I
played
don't.
on all the garbage cans and
Oh,
stuff.
did they? Oh, could be. Yeah.
Okay, well, this might answer the next question, which is weirdest gig?
Which is what?
Weirdest gig?
Weirdest gig. Weirdest gig. Okay. This was before we even had a record contract. And we weren't known as the Collectors at that point. We were the Torch Cabaret House Band.
Rolls right off the tongue.
Doesn't it? It's full of imagery, and it burnt down. But it was 5 nights a week, and or 6 nights a week, probably. Yeah, I think it was probably 6 nights a week, and it was 3 or 4 sets a night, something like that. And we got a gig. Oh, I know. We actually were the Collectors. By then we'd done a record, but we were still playing the Torch because I had to earn a living, right? So we were still playing the Torch. Our record was out. It was looking at a baby, and we got a gig up at SFU, playing for the students up there. So we went up and we started playing, and I don't know what happened, but at a certain point, the most reviled song that in our world for us was Louie Louie. So at a certain point, I just started going, boom, boom, boom. And we all went, oh my God, this is because the gig was kind of silly. Like the people, I mean, it was a stupid gig. So we started playing stupid music, right? And then we all got in a conga line and we started going in around the stage, like in this conga line. I don't know how we managed the chords, but I do remember doing that and just doing Louie Louie. And it was crazy. It was fun. Yeah.
And on the other end of the spectrum, best gig or favorite gig?
Yeah. I the favorite works into unusual pretty much most of the time in my mind. And so I'll tell you about one. It was at Pasadena. It was in Pasadena, and we were playing with Vanilla Fudge, and It's a Beautiful Day. It's a Beautiful Day started, and then we were to go on, and then Vanilla Fudge. So when it was time for us to go on, Howie and Glenn were nowhere in sight, and we had to go on. So Claire and I and Ross, what became the trio, went up.
I wonder why.
Yeah, and we just started to play. We went, okay, let's play, we'll play, and we got into this stuff. We got it going. It was really smoking. It was great. We were having a great time and doing all kinds of things we didn't expect to do, and really loving it. And the audience was loving it too. It was great. And then Howie and Glenn came running up onto the stage and got into it too. And so when we ended, the audience, they went crazy. It was great. And then we went, oh, what do we do? Should we do another jam? And Ross said, no, let's do the suite. So we did the What Love Suite after that. And they went 8 after that, right? Yeah. And then we down and we're walking across, we're just walking through the crowd, right? Walking through the crowd to our dressing room, and Vanilla Fudge, Carmine Appice was the lead guy, right? The drummer. And they were coming out, and he just says, we just do what we do. We do what we do. So, yeah, that was a good gig.
Yeah,
and we often did well with surprises and curveballs. They're more fun.
Yeah, I think that sense of safety within a band. So knowing that you can take a left turn and they're going to come with you. Yeah. That nobody's going to let anybody else fall on their face, because everybody's going to be everybody else's safety net. Yeah. And you can go places. If you don't have that sense of safety, it's really hard to go on musical adventures.
Yes, it is. Yeah. You have to be so attentive to what everyone expects. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you think is really important for up and coming artists to know that we haven't touched on today?
Anything else? I don't want to leave anything out. Be kind to yourself. Yeah. That's probably super important. It's exciting when you have your ideas or your techniques that you learn that make great sound. It's really exciting, and it makes you feel like you're on top of the world in your own little world. You feel that way, right? And then you go out, and sometimes it falls flat. And be kind to yourself and be kind to your band members, right? That was good. It was fine. Things happen sometimes. No, we're fine. It was good. Yeah. That kind of thing. It took me a long time to learn that. We used to go off stage. We hadn't had a good gig, and we'd just be like, oh God, it was awful.
Vilifying each other?
Oh, well, no, we weren't going back and forth. It was silent.
Yeah.
We were all just kind of petrified with feeling terrible about what had happened, right? And don't do that to yourself. Yeah. Don't do it. It's stupid. Yeah, you're going to have bad gigs. That's all right. Fuck it.
Like you need to expect those because
Just expect them.
they're not
Yep.
not going to happen.
No, no way. Everybody has them.
Absolutely.
We blew Jeff Beck off the stage one time. He had a bad night. It's the only way. We did pretty good, but he did terrible. And I'm sure he wasn't too happy about it. But you just keep on. The next night's probably going to be great.
Yeah.
Shit happens. Yeah. Yep. So
well, I really appreciate you joining me today, Bill. Where can people find you on the great wide interwebs? I know you're not so much a social media guy, but where do they find you, or find out about any like upcoming shows or anything along those lines?
Yeah, I'm really bad at even that. But we do have a Facebook page, and we got a website. I haven't been there in a long time. I hope they're okay. I'm sorry. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. Gone.com.
That one's an easy one. Do you know what it is on Facebook?
No, but if you go Chilliwack official page, that's what it's called. Yeah, it's Chilliwack official page. And then my page is The Real Beal. REALBEEL.
Okay, and we'll link those in the show notes.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes they come to me when people write things, so then I go on and check it out.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay.
Right on. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. It was fun. It was really fun to do it, and it's just like I don't know. There's because of all the years,
Yeah.
It's really easy to talk to you, and I appreciate your sort of going into the heart of things. That's, you seem to want to do that, which is a lot of fun. I like that myself.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I think we have access to a lot of the rose-colored glasses stuff about the music industry, and I know it would have been helpful for me when I was starting out if I'd known answers to questions that I didn't know yet to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
that's what we're aiming for.
Okay. Good. Yeah.